audience at least move forward. Come forward at least, closer to the rest of us. I promise no one at the table will bite. I have that undertaking from all of the speakers, that no one bites. And I'm going to shuffle the order a little bit, I warn you, because Peter Zachse will have to leave earlier than the end. But just to begin very quickly and very briefly, my name is Bill Thompson. I'm the head of the Eurasia Division at the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. I'm here to moderate this session on supply chains and sustainability. I'm not going to make any great introductory remarks about the theme because I'd rather let the speakers talk. I just want to say two things. First is, obviously, the theme is one we all need to be thinking about. Trade is more complicated than it was a few years back. Trade is more complicated because we have a greater awareness of the environmental impacts and consequences. Trade is more complicated because of the geopolitical context in which we live. We're discussing a set of issues here that would have seemed quite exotic earlier in my career. And that's why I'm glad we have such a distinguished group of guests from public and private sectors. The second thing I want to say is that I am a mean and unpleasant person when it comes to timekeeping. If I rush you to finish during your intervention, it's not that I don't respect you or want to hear you, it's that I want to respect all of the speakers. And I also want to make sure that ideally we have some time when the speakers have gone round through one round of questions from me, perhaps, to open up for questions from the floor. So please don't take it amiss if I start waggling my watch or otherwise signaling in not very subtle ways that you need to speed up. And now we start with a very big picture, one very relevant to Central Asia's economies, not only to Uzbekistan, and that is the role that is being played by Turkey, playing a critical role in enhancing the region's trade and transport connectivity efforts. And so I would like first, as we begin, to pass the floor to the Deputy Minister of Trade of Turkey, Mr. Sezai Uçarmak, and I hope I pronounced that correctly, to tell us a bit about Turkey's current priorities in pursuing this agenda.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Müsaadenizle ben...
С вашего разрешения, with your permission, I would like to speak in English. In Turkish with the English translation. Dear attendees, I would like to convey my greetings to all of you. I am very pleased to participate in the Tashkent International Investment Forum, which brings together all of you, and I would like to convey my greetings to all the participants. The pandemics that we have experienced in the last 10 years, they actually shaped shaped international cooperation and trade very much. And you know that for 30 years, most of the products were produced in the East and they were consumed in the West. And I think that it's very important number to say, and because most of the trade and logistics was forwarded by sea road, and only 2% was transported by a railroad. That means that railroad has a big potential to development, and Uzbekistan, which is located in the middle of East and West, has a great potential to develop the railroad. And I believe that we, as Turkey and Uzbekistan, we can create more integrated world because we have 85 million people. We have a lot of guests. Uzbekistan has more than 36 million people. And taking into account that we have a common corridor, the trade corridor that can be built and strengthened is very important. And our grandparents who who are our common grandparents, they did a lot to support the trade, and I'm sure that we can even incorporate more and create stronger bonds. We have free trade agreements with 23 countries, and also we have many other agreements such as investment agreements, communication agreements, and etc. So we also have preferential trade agreements in force with 4 countries, including Uzbekistan. Recent developments have once again demonstrated the importance of Silk Road. Turkey and Uzbekistan, which have strategic importance on the historical Silk Road route, are in the middle corridor. And we should admit that we are good producers and we serve as a driving force, and we have seen that we can be very good partners. The pandemic has proven that. In food sector, in heavy industry, and in other sectors, there were a lot of problems, especially many factors affected agricultural spheres. When you want to build any industrial case, if the equipment increases in price, you need to invest more. And if you have limited budget, tomorrow you will have trouble to pay for that equipment. And maybe you will not be able to open the factory. But again, you will find another solutions. You can find cheaper equipment. But let's say if let's say the food is increasing in price, then you will not be able to find another solutions, because food is very dependent on each other, and agricultural sector is very important. Also, I should admit that services, the sphere of services, as well as agriculture, keen on improving, and we should focus more because we should create new mechanism and integrate them into the international mechanisms. Also, you know that changing a human is very hard, and changing the process that is created by human is also very hard. When President has met with our President and the advisor to the President, Mr. Shavkat Mirziyoyev has underlined many issues, and I saw how much he's motivated to change the country, and how he is keen on developing the country. And I could see that he's very motivated, and it motivated me. So for that, I wish him a good, strong, long health, and I would like to express my respect. I know that I'm limited in time, but I want to say that in order to develop, Uzbekistan should develop its road infrastructure, including customs declarations. International mechanisms should be accepted. For example, if you let's say if you will not be able to facilitate the customs declaration processes, then you will not be able to facilitate the trade, and not many goods will be transferring through the country. And you should serve as a resource for transportation, so everyone would be willing to pass through your corridors. Thank you very much.
Rahmat kattakon, vazir o'rinbosari janoblari. Hali bu masalaga qaytamiz birozdan keyin. Albatta, geopolitik muammolarga to'xtalib o'tdingiz, pandemiyaga to'xtalib o'tdingiz. Bular nostabillikka e'tibor qilishimizga to'g'ri keladi. Qizil dengiz orqali, Tayvan qo'ltig'i orqali, Qora dengiz orqali bu kabi kontekstni o'ylab turgan holatda men mikrofonni keyingi suhbatchiga beraman. PSA International'ning prezidentiga bermoqchiman. Men direktor o'rinbosari PSA International'ning. Xo'p, kompaniyalar bo'lishi mumkin bo'lgan muammolarga qanday tayyorgarlik ko'rishyapti sizni?
Thank you, and lovely to be here, and thank you everyone for coming. I think the afternoon sessions on the second day always tend to be quite tough ones, so lovely to see so many people. As BSA, we're both a container terminal operator and also a supply chain partner to cargo stakeholders throughout the world. So we're operating at the moment now 60 seaports and inland terminals in 45 countries around the world. And actually we already handle some cargo for Central Asia. We're very pleased to say we've been operating in the Deputy Minister's lovely country of Turkey for over 15 years at Mersin, as well as our ports in China and even some containers that are railed through to Thailand. For a situation like the Red Sea, I can give a real-life example where at the moment many containers from Asia, rather than go through the Red Sea, are stopped and discharged in Dammam and then trucked or railed on to Riyadh and Jeddah. So of course that puts a lot of pressure onto a terminal operator. It requires a great amount of agility of sourcing resources and people very quickly, but also working very closely with your stakeholders, with your customers to try and adjust their schedules, to optimize arrivals and discharge plans, to try and keep the supply chain flowing as smoothly as possible. But when it comes to how can companies adapt to these changes and disruptions, which are becoming an ever regular occurrence, as especially from our freight forwarding side, I could answer it in perhaps 9 or 10 words. Look ahead, start creating and testing new capacity and alternatives, and secure that capacity. Because typically when you get a disruption, the first thing we all do as the trade is usually stop and see what happens and decide whether that's going to continue or things are actually going to change. And so you wait, and the costs and the disruptions start to mount. And then perhaps you start thinking about an alternative, at which point you move to an alternative that you probably haven't tested or tried before, which means it makes a lot of sense to actually try these things out in advance. And at that time, it may be the case that also everybody else is moving into that direction, and things can also get jammed up there. So by planning in advance, by actually creating alternative routes, and then by making sure you have these alternatives ready and available, that your teams are experienced and comfortable with doing it, that can take a lot of sting out of these disruptions. And I think we've seen everything over the past few years. It's not just the geopolitical ones. We've had vessels blocking the Suez Canal. We've had huge weather events as well as economic ones. And when you come to Central Asia, I see great opportunities. There are around 25 million TEUs, or 20-foot equivalent unit containers per year go from Asia to Europe, but only about 500,000 by rail. Now you have vessels diverting around the Cape of Good Hope, adding 6,000 to 8,000 kilometers of marine transit and extra time. And according to a subsidiary of BCG in a report on Tuesday, adding another 13 million tons of CO2 emissions in the last 4 months alone. The rail option could very much be an alternative. It's faster, the distance is shorter. Trains may not be as economically, as environmentally friendly as ships, of course, but with a shorter distance, with more electrification of rail, even with renewable power coming into the grid, it's possible to narrow the gap. So with that, I would also add that creating your alternatives, particularly alternatives at times of disruption, tend to be more about resilience than sustainability. But your options can turn out to be more sustainably efficient too.
Thank you very much. well under time and very informative. And since you're under time, I'm going to have a quick follow-up. How much of that kind of testing and probing are we seeing? Because there's a lot of discussion of resilience, diversification of supply chains, and so on. But then it's a bit like insurance. It's costly. So how much insurance are we seeing the players actually purchasing in that sense?
Well, I think that we're not seeing the Central Asia volumes jump appreciably, if I'm talking about one particular trade lane, which I think is a message in itself. This is very much, I think, an opportunity now, particularly for all the stakeholders along the particular rail routes, to put the plans into action to streamline all the interfaces. We're going across multiple borders here, sometimes different gauges as well. The transit time can be as low as 15 days from Asia to Europe. So I think with the proper incentives, with the proper streamlining, this can entice more people to do it, because the answer is at the moment not enough.
Thank you for that. We started with a couple of discussions really looking at the state of the world and then seeing what it might mean for Uzbekistan and the region and how they fit in. Now I want to flip it. I want to address some participants who really are here in Uzbekistan looking out and trying to manage their affairs and establish their supply chains and their linkages. And we start with Peter Zaksa, Vice President for the CIS of John Deere Waldorf International. And I mean, as I understand it, please correct me if I'm wrong, John Deere is relatively new to the agro-machinery sector in Uzbekistan. You're a new arrival. We'll talk to a veteran in a moment, but what drew you to Uzbekistan, and what reflections do you have on these issues based on your experience in coming here?
No. Thank you very much, William. Thank you very much to all the organizers of performing on this event here. Thank you very much to Uzbekistan for giving John Deere the opportunity to talk here. What was driving us to Uzbekistan is actually a good question. Yes, we are new in Uzbekistan. We only started in the second half of 2022, but we have collected already much earlier experience, and that was for us an experience where we said, okay, later. By now in 2022 what has changed, and this is first of all the people approach has changed. People are doing business with each other, and our core moment was first of all in 2017 when suddenly many customers came and wanted to buy John Deere equipment when the market opened. But then in 2022 our current business partner UzAuto followed and reached out to John Deere. It was not our initiative, but this time the entire approach was much more on an eye-to-eye level. It was much more balanced. It was very constructive. I have really to say chapeau, very well done. This is the proof when the right people are doing business with each other, you can also be successful in difficult or emerging market conditions. And that is the first and foremost moment. The second one is business environment. Due to people again, we have already mentioned it, we have heard it, and since 2022, when we are really active here, we can ourselves report that the president is really doing his absolute utmost to create a new Uzbekistan. John Deere does sign that, and we recognize it. So business environment created by people, the fundamental P, has also significantly changed within a short period of time. Yes, many things still to be done, but we are confident that it will be done. And here we come to the next point. What is the outlook? We are positive on the outlook. We believe that there is a lot of potential especially in the cotton sector, a lot of necessary development work, not only with regard to ag machinery, but also water management, digitalization, traceability, and due to that, we also see here a long-term future, and I just want to repeat and to say great thanks and appreciation to the President and his team. He has given us the confidence to be here. We feel here comfortable, and I just want to close with thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you for that. If I can follow up with you as well very briefly, since you've been here, I mean, how are you setting up supply chains? I mean, what is the level of production, assembly? Are you able to source any of your components either in Uzbekistan or in the region? I'm just a little bit curious about the supply chain aspects of setting up production here in 2022-23.
We have here, as I said, our local partner, USAuto, TAT. And we at first, from our side, have the main work to disassemble machines, to take components off and so on. It's a lot of engineering work. We are almost done with this. This year we start, and it's our goal to produce cotton pickers here, the first ones, and also the caps for tractors. So we are according to the plan, and we expect here actually delocalization. We have also identified export potential, which we are also going to utilize. So localization, I think this year to be started. A lot to become from here.
Thank you very much. I said we would start with a newcomer and then we kind of move to a veteran. I want to turn to Niels Reusch of Klaas, which has been in Uzbekistan for an impressively long time, since 2010. You've been producing here for well over a decade. How have you managed the challenges raised by its kind of double landlocked position? And how do you view the prospects for developing new transport and logistics and supply chain integration here in Uzbekistan?
Thank you, Bill. So first of all, let me also thank you for the invitation and the organization here. It's been a great event. It also shows the development of the country that we see here indeed. We are active with a local production since 2010, together with our partners Asaka Bank and USAuto. We're producing here combines and tractors for the local market, for the local farmers. More than 3,000 tractors already on the ground, 2,500 combines that are harvesting every year, which of course is one of the goals, or was one of the goals that brought us here, to help Uzbekistan develop sovereignty of food supply. Of course, we also started, what Peter just said, with local assembly. Of course, after more than a decade here, we're a little ahead of that, so we already localize and produce here. We're continuously increasing the level of localization, of local sourcing, which, unlike in the car industry, is a little bit challenging when we speak about numbers, because we produce per year a couple of hundreds maybe units, but not thousands. So for a supplier, that is a little bit more challenging. But on the other side, what we are currently also looking in and increasing, let's say, reliability, or we see an increasing interest here also from the suppliers to source, to export the components to our other factories. So from that, we try to not only bring all the components here, but also to send and export the components abroad, to Europe, to China. So we try to use here the transportation in both ways. But of course, as mentioned before, here transporting, especially in these days, is getting more and more difficult, especially if we speak about sanctioned goods that are, at least for European companies, forbidden to transport through Russia. So the middle corridor via the Caucasus is mainly used, but coming to capacity limits. Alternatives via China taking long, alternatives via the southern pass, Pakistan, Afghanistan, are a little bit unsecure. So this is one of the big challenges where, as Mike said, we are already looking for alternatives, but that is difficult, takes time. So I can sign to his proposal to do this on time. So, but yeah, as said before, business is done by people, and this is what I want to say at the end. This is what really is part of the success here in Uzbekistan. It's a very hospitable country, a very good atmosphere. There's a lot interest in learning about modern processes, modern technologies. So with our initiatives to train not only our own staff, but also farmers in new technologies and how to use the machinery is taken up quite good and actively. So that's, I have to say thank you for 14 quite successful years. Not always easy, yes, but bottom line is we are happy here and we came to stay.
Thank you. And I think after 14 years, it's fair to say you came to stay and you have stayed, and probably for many more, because I think if anything, the circumstances are growing more favorable for
That's
carrying
definitely
on.
the plan, yes.
Now, zooming out again, I want to turn to Suvra Chakraborty, the founder and director of AMC Overseas, both founder and director, so I can't really promote you, even by accident. And you have a much broader look at logistics sectors, not only in Uzbekistan, but in the surrounding region. What do you see as the principal challenges? And I'm going to make it hard for you by saying I'm less interested in the obvious kind of transport infrastructures, which have had so much attention and so much discussion, and much more interested in perhaps your views on other aspects of logistics capacity.
Wow, yeah. Williams, thank you very much, William, for this opportunity, and to the organizers for this invitation, second time in a row. And yes, when we talk about supply chain, we are mostly talking about the hardware part of it, the rails, the ports. You know, most of the people, most of the stakeholders in global trade, they cannot change those things very easily. So we have to work with whatever existing the logistical routes, the ports, the facilities the countries have. So what you do when you are having constant changes, the way the key words of this session is talking about referring to COVID. Now, COVID changed, COVID happened, we hardly could help. But what we could do is, taking a lesson from the COVID, that we are talking about close shoring. We are trying to get markets which are closer, we are going to get the sources which are closer. We are talking about fluctuating demand. Yes, in certain countries there are degrowth, there the demands are falling, but look at the markets where the demand is increasing and will be increasing. Why I am telling you, I am coming from Dubai. Now, Dubai and Middle East are the countries, are the areas, if you look at the demography, it is so youthful, consumption is increasing every day. And in those deserted areas, they cannot produce any food. So what invariably increases there is the demand. And we live in imports. Imagine this number, Dubai, a city of 3 million people, last year had 18 million tourists and visitors. To feed them, we have to get it from all over the world. So, what I say today to Uzbekistan, that with whatever reality you are facing in logistics and other kind of supply chain challenges, if you want to say that, look and choose the right market. And I invite the business in Uzbekistan to look into Middle East, where they will mitigate most of these risks. Because the demand will be always increasing, the Red Sea events are not there. Why I tell you this? Because when I started working in Ukraine in 1991, I was sent from Singapore. And the country was absolutely new. And nobody knew where is Ukraine, and it was not integrated to the global supply chain at all. And then I made a company with a tagline, taking Ukraine to the world. And 30 years since, with this Indian face, I have taken Ukrainian products to 100 countries in the world, starting from Malawi to Mexico, from Japan to Jamaica. So it is all up to you, the the soft side of supply chain, accepting the constraints what geography has given you, but find the products, find the way to handle it. They talk about Uzbekistan being a landlocked country. Yes, so is Switzerland. But look at Swiss cheese or Swiss chocolate. It has reached all over the world. If banana can come from Panama to Uzbekistan, why can't Uzbek products go to the other countries? So this is where the soft skill of supply chain is important. And in this country, respectable president has given a strict instruction to to double the export.
İki baravar aşış kerak eksportda dedi prezident. Bu qishloq xo'jalik vazirligiga borgan edim va ergashib janoblar bilan ishladim va ular mendan yechim topib berishni so'rashdi. Qanday qilib ana shu hozir O'zbekiston va yaqin sharq orasidagi bog'lanishni yaratishga so'rashdi. Ya'ni bu yerda nima qilish mumkin? Ko'proq raqobatbardosh bo'lishgan. Biz buni yecha olmadik masalani va biz istar edik, lekin buni yechimi bo'lishi mumkin agar shu yaxshilab qarasak. Katta rahmat bunga yana qaratib boramiz. Va bu yerda juda intizomli notiqlar ekan, vaqtida kelibdi. Endi sizga navbat nima? Transport forumda biz savdo modelidan foydalanamiz va bu yerda bozorga yetib borish imkoniyatlaridan foydalanishimiz kerak va buni muvofiqlashtirish kerak. Bu yerda yetkazib beruvchilar va savdogarlar muayyan bu sohalardan o'tishi kerak, rivojlanish. Bu yerda AQSh yoki Germaniyaga bo'lgan darajaga erishish. Bu yerda bu iqtisodlar, bu mamlakatlar bir-biriga unchalik yaxshi bog'langan emas. Ancha orqada turibdi. Shuning uchun bu 2019-yilda hatto yana ko'proq yemirildi. Bu yerda operatsion qiyinliklar bo'ldi. Fizik geografiyasini biz o'rgatiramiz. Bu har qanday holda O'zbekiston Markaziy Osiyoda joylashgan bo'ladi. Shuning uchun bu yerda siyosatlarni o'ylash kerak. Chunki bizda markaziy mamlakatda bu yerda lekin deylik Germaniya bilan bog'lanishda mana shu geografiya tufayli bu uzilishni, bo'shliqni 50%ni atiga tashkil etadi. Endi men xohlashim fizik geografiyadan hozir chetlanishmoqchiman, lekin biz bu yerda ikkinchi navbatda gapirishga bizda Dan Patterson bor, Sea Reliefning bosh direktori va bu raqamli logistika haqida gapirib beradilar. Ya'ni bu yerda yetkazib berish zanjirlari bu markaziy o'rinni egallaydi. Va bu yerda Markaziy Osiyo juda katta imkoniyatlarni yaratib beradi. Bill, katta rahmat. Birinchidan bu global yetkazib berish zanjirlarida ayniqsa tekstilga qarasak, biz bu yerda AQShda chiqarilgan va Yevropa ittifoqida qabul qilingan qonun hujjatlariga qarashimiz kerak. Va bunda shu fakt borki, bu yerda yetkazib berish zanjirlarni qaraganimizda bu majburiy mehnatni ham ko'rib chiqishimiz kerak. Chunki bu yerda vaqt ziqlagan bo'ladi va shunday cheklovlar bu normativ hujjatlarda aks etadi va bu yerda iste'mol bozori Yevropa ittifoqida bog'langan, jahonga bog'lagan va ayniqsa bu yerda mehnat bozorida ishlarni yollashda jihatlar bor. Va bu yerda mahsulotni taqsimlash zanjirlariga yetkazib borish kerak va bunda qanday hissa qo'shiladi? Mana shu ishlarni bajarishda majburiy mehnat va ayniqsa bolalar mehnati uchraydi va shu siklni buzish kerak. Agar biz qaray boshlasak mana shunga, buning ta'siriga, ya'ni qishloq xo'jalik sektoriga va tekstil savdosiga uning ta'sirini olib ko'rsak, bu yerda paxta yig'im terimining inson omili nazarga tashlanadi. Agar inson huquqlariga nazar tashlasak, O'zbekiston bu yerda juda tarixi yaxshi bo'lmagan va bu yerda oxirgi paytda prezident Mirziyoyev juda ko'p manfaatdor taraflar bilan ishlab 2022-yilda Xalqaro mehnat tashkiloti bolalar mehnatiga barham berildi deb xulosaga keldi va bu nega O'zbekiston bozoriga ta'sir qilmadi? Chunki uzoq vaqt davomida ana shunday buzilishlar bo'lgan edi. Va bu yerda Yevropa investorlari va ishlab chiqaruvchilar bu yerda juda yaxshi paxta hosili yig'iladi va bunda albatta oxirgi 3 yil davomida yaxshi texnologiyalarni kiritish harakati AQSh texnologiya O'zbekistonga olib kirilyapti va bu yerda paxta yetkazuvchilar bilan ishlaydi. Bu yerda bizga raqamli kelib chiqish sertifikatlari beriladi. Agar bu yerda ana shu paxtani mana shu mashinalar yiqqanligiga dalil bo'lsa, unda odam majburiy mehnat ishlatilmadigan-ki 2023-da 70% paxta qo'lda terilgan edi. Mashinada agar shu raqamlarga qarasam, biz ko'rib turibmizki, bu anchagina ko'p hali mehnat qilishimiz kerak. Va bu texnologiyalar sekin O'zbekistonga kirib kelyapti. Va O'zbekiston bu yerda bozordagi birinchi sinov mamlakat bo'lyapti. Ya'ni bu yerda raqamli ravishda hosil mashinalar bilan terilganligini isbotlash. Katta rahmat. Ikki narsani aytmoqchiman. Bu yerda O'zbekiston uchun katta imkoniyatlar bor. Chunki bu yerda bu obro'ga qaraydi, bu yetkazib berish zanjirlarida va balki ba'zi jihatdan bu juda jozibali ishlab chiqaruvchilarga aylantiradi. Lekin o'ylaymanki, ikkinchi narsani aytmoqchi bo'lganim, bu yerda siz avval aytgan edingiz va bu yerda salohiyat juda katta va bu yerda mas'uliyatli biznes aloqalar bo'lyapti va bu yerda paxta juda katta muammo tug'diradi va bu texnologiyalar va bu yerda notiqlar juda intizomli. Peter 3 daqiqa kamroq gapirish, shuning uchun sizga agar xohlasangiz bunga yana qo'shimchalar qilishingiz mumkin. Bu yerda ayniqsa aytiz eksport salohiyatini tilga oldingiz. Hozir mana shu mintaqa kontekstida qanday imkoniyatlar ko'ryapsiz? Agar bu komponentlarga kelsak va yoki spesifikatsiyaga kelsak, biz ko'rsatadigan xizmatlar spesifikatsiyalarga bir hozir kritik miqdorga yetganimiz yo'q. Hozirgi bu iste'molchilar uchun narxlar ancha yuqori va biz hozir iste'molchilarga moslangan yechimlarni topishimiz kerak. Va bu shaxsiy jihati yo'q bu yerda. Bu yerda albatta ana shu iste'molchilarga moslashga juda katta salohiyat ko'ryapmiz. Hindistonda, Xitoyda, Turkiyada, Yevropa Ittifoqida, Afrikada va keyin bu Janubiy Amerikada va bu va mana shu jihatdan men salohiyatni ko'ryapman. Endi savollar bor shuni qo'shimcha qilishda. Lekin men hozir Strakobotiga qaytmoqchi. Siz hozir bunda biznesingizni aytganingizda bu tijorat manfaatlariga bilan qanday bog'liqligini aytsangiz, bu yetkazib berish zanjirida bu yerda siyosat aralashuvlar bo'lishi mumkin. Bu shunday niyat qilingan bo'lmasligi ham mumkin va Xitoy masalan Xitoy eksportini Meksikadan va Meksika bu AQShga ilgari olib kelmagan narsalarni olib kelayotgan. Bu siyosiy kun tartibi bilan bog'liq mumkin. Bu yerda bu shu orqali yetkazib berish zanjirlarini yana mahkamroq, mustahkamroq qilayotgan bo'lishingiz mumkin. Bu yerda tijorat strukturalar ana shunday xatarlar qanday qiladi? Bilasizmi, agar siz mana shu low shoring bilan ishlagan, bu yerda men aytmoqchi bu yerda siyosatchilarga shunday gapni aytmoqchiman. Bu butun dunyoda muhim. Ba'zi mahsulotlarni yo'qotayotgan mamlakatlarga yetkazish kerak. Hozir O'zbekiston shu bu juda quruq mamlakatlar. Ba'zi ekin tikinlar bu mana shu yer sharoitlarga juda yaqin bo'lishi mumkin. Masalan, ba'zi yong'oqlar shu agar siz ana shularni hammasini Kanadadan olib kelish yoki Meksikadan Arab amirliklar olib kelishni aytsa, bunda albatta bu uzoq. Ana shuni aytmoqchiman Meksikadan. Mana hozir yangi bozorga qarang. O'zbekistonga shu narsalarni aytish kerak. Ana shu bozorlarga nazar tashlang. Bu albatta yaqin atrofda bo'lish bu biznes qilingan emas, lekin bu imkoni yo'q degani emas-ku. Bunda va AQSh va Germaniyada siz bergan raqamlarga qarang. Agar biz O'zbekiston bilan va shunga o'xshagan Markaziy Osiyo mamlakatlariga yetkazib berish zanjirlarini aytsangiz, bu qiziq narsa. Mana bu stan bor mamlakatlar. Bunda albatta ko'p mamlakatlar bu muayyan mamlakatlar bilan bog'lanadi. Bu eng yaxshi fikrlar uyg'otmaydi. Bu mamlakatlar juda do'stona mamlakatlar va lekin bunda qiyinchiliklar bilan bog'liq bo'ladi. Agar yetkazish zanjirlarini olsak, bu mamlakatni tan olish yoki mamlakatni qabul qilish juda muhim. Agar biz shu yetkazib berish zanjirlarini rivojlantirishni aytsak, bu O'zbekistonda buni ko'rib chiqish kerak. Buni targ'ib qilish mumkin va bu yerda ham sifatni ham miqdorni oshirish kerak. Shunday tovarlarniki bu bozorlarga jozibali bo'ladigan. Bu joy juda jozibali. Bu yerda juda salohiyat katta. Bu yerda inson resurslari katta. Shuning uchun butun dunyo bilan bu aloqa qilishi mumkin. Shuning uchun kompaniya rishi sifatida men O'zbekistonda eksportni 2 barobar oshirishga hissa qo'shishga qo'shamiz va bu yerda bozorlarni qarash kerak. Agar unday bo'lmasa, bu samarali bo'lmaydi. Endi vazirga
One of the things I'd welcome your reflections on, pick and choose as you like. One is what we've been hearing from Mr. Chakraborty, because of course Turkey sits really at the crossroads of Europe, the Middle East region, South Caucasus, in a very interesting position. And if you have any reflections on this focus on really a connectivity between Central Asia and the larger Middle Eastern region. And the second, you mentioned services, and I was very pleased because too much trade talk is just about goods. I wonder if you have reflections on, or if Turkey is involved in working with countries in Uzbekistan or other countries in Central Asia to reduce the barrier to growth of trade in services. Just as a footnote, my view as an economist is that as the world grows richer, trade growth is going to depend more on services than it does on goods, because as countries go richer, they consume more services. Services growth comes to predominate. And we're seeing that already in the trade statistics. Goods trade has slowed, services trade has accelerated, but not enough to offset that, partly because we have so many barriers still to trade in high-value services. So I welcome your reflections on one or both of those.
Bu konuda da kısaca bir bilgi vermek isterim.
I would like to give short information about this. Turkey supports numerous initiatives of the connectivity, and we are in the middle of we're in the middle of the corridor, and we have connections with Azerbaijan. We have connections with Georgia. We have a lot of connectivities, and definitely because of this connectivity, we can provide the ports to the Mediterranean Sea, and we have several international corridors, European corridor, we have oil and gas corridors, we have Caspian Central Corridor. You probably know about Baku-Tbilisi-Kars railway, one of the important pillars of the middle corridor, which is becoming operational very soon. So we also have Turkey, Georgia, Azerbaijan, Turkmenistan, Afghanistan corridor. And hopefully, if the Azerbaijan and Armenia conflict will be over, then we will have we will be able to build that corridor and have a corridor from there. So the transportation and logistics will be even bettered, taking into account that Central Asia is mostly keen on Central Asian production, agricultural production. That means that we really need that corridors. And we have different standards between Turkey and Uzbekistan that we need to unify and we need to facilitate. So as it was said earlier, the more borders you pass, the more problems you usually face. So what we need to do is to facilitate the border procedures. We need to facilitate the customs procedures. That's why most of the people actually choose maritime way, because when you choose maritime way, you don't really pass the borders. It's usually more free. So we should apply that principle for the roads. So when one vehicle is moving from one country to another, the easier it is to pass the borders, the more cars will be passing. Also, we would like to say that for the Central Asian countries, we are right now in the procedure of execution of agreement of international trade facilitation agreements. We are right now undergoing through agreement on international combined cargo transportation between the CIS member countries. And also we are signing the agreement on establishment of simplified customs line. So all the goods that are going through transit, they should understand and feel that it's very easy, it is hassle-free, then they will be willing to go by road. Instead of changing the route, people will prefer going directly by one corridor without any struggles. So I hope that we will be able to connect east from west without any hassles. So the countries will be easily selling their goods on different markets, and then also countries will be better represented in different markets. Thank you very much.
Now I'm going to come back to Mike Formoso and put you a little bit on the spot. Why not? There's no fun in being the Asia, Europe through the middle corridor. But of course, there are still costs involved. And in previous work that I've done with colleagues on these issues, a lot of this depends, of course, on weight to value ratio, perishability, distances to be traveled, and so on. Do you have any particular thoughts on the kinds of cargo that make more sense for an emerging middle corridor and those that, frankly, will just stay maritime?
Yes. The types of cargo that are probably more suited tends to be the heavier cargo, the higher value cargo. I think perishable is perhaps still in development at the moment. Obviously, for the higher value cargo, it's because of the cost of goods and cost of inventory. So the faster you can get it from A to B, the lower the total cost is for you. But at the same time, I think a lot of consumer goods are coming through, particularly from China to Europe. I'm talking transit here. And I think that for the middle corridor, indeed many of the corridors, each is serving or is stronger in a particular area. So the strongest area for rail transit is really from central China to central Europe, or indeed from Uzbekistan to central Europe, rather than Uzbekistan to one of the coastal cities. So there's a lot of variables that come into it. And if I segue a little bit, I remember on one of my first trips to Uzbekistan being told by a freight forwarder, that Uzbekistan logistics people are the best in the world because we're dealing with north, south, east and west. At any particular time, there's a problem here, there's a blockage there, and it keeps changing. And I think one of the things that's missing a lot through the entire chain, and it's not limited to this particular area or region, is visibility, of knowing where your cargo is, of knowing how long it's going to take. That if there are delays, that gives you the chance to take some preventative action. And it warmed my heart to hear the Deputy Minister talking about streamlining, about the importance of removing the bottlenecks, because the supply chain is only as strong as the weakest link. Just 2 days ago, I was actually talking with my colleagues in Mersin Port in Turkey, and we were talking about the volume that was coming through from Central Asia and how we could steer more of it towards that particular area. But at the end of the day, it depends what's actually happening at the choke points and what measures are being taken to streamline.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Now, I'm going to come back to Niels with a rather different question. As the veteran investor here, and your direct competitor from John Deere has gone, I promise not to tell him what you say. You've been here 14 years. You talked about what you do and how it's worked. If an investor, not in agri-machinery, not a competitor came to you, a manufacturer came and said, look, we're looking at Uzbekistan. But I mean, isn't it kind of, in the middle of it? Yeah, I mean, double landlocked, rail sanctions, Russia to the north, China opening and closing. What would your guidance be to somebody looking at an investment here in terms of how to think about addressing that challenge?
Thank you for the question. If I look back how we looked at it, the main question at that point in time is not so much the position being landlocked or not. I mean, we've been active here on the market before, obviously. So, and we are active in basically most of the countries worldwide, independent how many ports they have, railroad stations, airports, whatsoever. So it's at the end of the day just a question how to get there. The main question is, what is the local demand? What is needed in the country? What we heard before, you know, what is the product and where can I sell it? Agriculture has a specification that everybody all over the world needs to eat. So everybody needs to harvest grain to eat some bread. Of course, cotton is needed for clothing, but that's the second. First is, of course, food. But at the end of the day, it's a question of product matching the market, the demand, the clients. So what is the demand already there for the specific product? And at the end of the day, are the customers in a position to afford it, to buy it, to finance it? Because that was for a lot of the years we've been here, one of the main challenges to find enough resources for the local retail financing. Luckily today the situation is quite good. Farmers can choose from a variety of leasing offers for machinery product. But that was different in the past. I mean, the times where conversion was a limiting factor are luckily long gone. So
I remember those.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, it's a question of market, customers, and demand.
Those of you, locals will know, but those of you who might not have been doing business in Uzbekistan before the reforms began can't imagine when you carried cash in gym bags because there were no large notes and conversion was such an issue. We're up against the clock, but before, and don't forget, don't run away, please, we want the photo. I really, Dan, after your presentation, I don't have a specific follow-up question so much as to see if there's anything you wanted to add about your involvement. I mean, Silverleaf is obviously your involvement in the textile sector here more broadly.
Thank you, Bill. One last comment. I was speaking particularly on the kind of the micro side of logistics. One of the issues is as Uzbekistan emerges and as they make progress, as we talk about the high-value goods, when you're talking about textiles, the manufacturing and transportation process and knowing that you're going to be able to get something on time in the same quantities as the same qualities, there's a drawing need for 4PL solutions evolving in Uzbekistan with a control tower, digitalization and supply chain management control tower, to be able to help steer, direct, and facilitate a lot of the 3PL and freight forwarding services. Because as these critical assets get built around the country...
I have to interrupt you and ask you to explain 4PL and 3PL.
So 3PL, so 3PL, you may have a warehouse, you may have trucks, you may have trains. 4PL, you don't own anything, you're in a virtual world. So you would have a control tower, much like a control tower at an airport. And it's from a digitalization perspective, you're working with freight forwarders, 3PL providers, both domestically and internationally, to be able to facilitate this transparency and timing and responsibility and accountability in the supply chain. So as I see it, as Uzbekistan continues to emerge and we want to make our products available to the high value markets, there are expectations that Uzbekistan will have to meet, and it has to do with these critical aspects of the integrity of your supply chain.
Thank you for that. Thank you all. I don't know about the audience. I have learned a great deal. And as was remarked, it's hard the last session on the second day. So I really appreciate the input from our speakers and their reflections and their expertise. Please join me in thanking them. And then I just ask the speakers to join me for a quick photo. Thank you very much.